Well, let me introduce you to our
Okay.
future audience here,
Okay.
if I may. I'm talking with Larry Studnicky. Larry is an attorney with a Harvard Law degree, and he's also the front man for High Plains Drifters, who have just released a new single just in time for Christmas. Santa, Bring My Girlfriend Back. Larry, thanks so much for taking time.
I'm grateful to you for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's start at the beginning. Where did you learn to play? Now, I mean, you have a Harvard Law degree. You obviously have spent a lot of time in school. Uh,
I probably spent more time in school than was needed. That's off topic. I don't play. I was about 16 and in high school when songs started writing themselves in my head. There's no other way to describe it. Um, Music and lyrics, instruments just started to write themselves in my head. I was a nerd in high school. I didn't play an instrument. I didn't read or write music. I wasn't allowed into my church choir. I was told my voice wasn't good enough. So for a long time, I just dismissed this, thinking I can't possibly be writing real. I mean, I know I'm writing songs in my head and I work on the lyrics, but I dismissed it as nothing real or serious for a long time. I was probably 31 or 32 before I finally got together with some musicians and knocked out a few versions of some of what I was hearing. And I realized that if I was lucky enough to work with great musicians, they could translate the sounds that I was hearing in my head into a song. And that's still the way I work with the High Plains Drifters. I don't play. I sing the lyrics to them. I tell them what I hear in terms of whether it's piano, guitars, strings, drums, basic stuff. It's not like I can write a string section.
yeah, yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's a gift, you know.
I guess I had to go online and do some reading about how other musicians write songs, and it's not as unusual as it sounds. I thought it was pretty weird.
Yeah,
And then I found that people like Michael Jackson never played an instrument, and he would literally mouth the musical parts that he was hearing to his producer and his band. Guys like legendary stories, guys like Keith Richards waking up in the middle of the night and recording the guitar chords to Satisfaction, or Paul
right.
McCartney waking up from a dream about his mother with Let It Be rattling around in his head,
Mm,
or Scrambled Eggs, which became Yesterday, which McCartney walked around for 2 or 3 weeks, he says, asking everybody from George Martin to the Beatles to his friends, do you know this song? It's been stuck in my head. And everyone's like, no, Paul, we've never heard that song before. It must be yours. Well, it must be mine. So, so
yeah,
it sounds really weird, but when you dig, it's not as weird as it sounds at first.
yeah, and but it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
It's cool. It's one of those things where you sit back and you go, I remember watching Tom Petty being interviewed about, where do your songs come from? And he said, I frankly have no idea. It's a mystical process. And
Man, that's
that's the way
beautiful.
I feel. And I mean, with this Christmas song, it was triggered by a Christmas Day brouhaha, bit of a family blow up over Christmas, December 2 years ago, coming up on the 2-year anniversary. And the next morning I was up before others, puttering around my kitchen, making coffee. And the first couple of lines, lyrics and melody of this song just popped right into my head. I've been drinking way too much this Christmas. My friends all want to know the reason why. And I had lyrics, I had melody, and I liked it. And I sat back and I said, okay, where do you go with this now?
Wow,
Uh,
it's so cool. I mean, it's really cool. And I mean, music is just so important to me. It, kind of shapes my life. It's the landmarks along the way. I remember times in my life by song. So
Absolutely, absolutely. My old boss, I spent part of my life as a music industry attorney, and I
mhm,
worked for one of the legendary guys in that business. And he said to me once, he said, the music that you're going to love for the rest of your life is the music that you first make love to. And so for him, it was big bands. And he said, so what would that be for you? And I said, well, for me, that would be like the Eagles and the Ramones and all the bands of the 70s and late 70s.
right.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I had two older brothers. I'm 52, and I had two older brothers. So, I graduated high school in '86, but I was really a '70s kid because my older brothers were
Right.
9 years and
Right.
11
You had
years
their
old.
record collections. I'm the oldest of five, so I didn't have any of that. And
Okay.
my parents were, it's funny, my dad was in a college glee club and had a good voice, but there wasn't a lot of music in the house growing up. I mean, I can tell you songs that I remember. I remember Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass being on my parents' little dinky record player. There wasn't even a proper stereo in the house, you
Yeah.
know?
Wow. Yeah. See, I was surrounded by music, like kind of like I am now. Uh, but yeah, two older brothers, very much into music. They took me to concerts when I was younger.
Yeah, I saw
So
you saw Bob Seger open for, who was it?
yeah, fog hat.
Okay, that's almost criminal when you think about
It's crazy.
it. Yeah, it's crazy. And around I'm going to mute something. Hang on one second.
Okay.
Around that same time, I don't know if it was the same time, but in the 70s, I had a similar experience. Excuse me while I just kill my email program, which is making noise.
Okay.
Um, all right, let me see if I can get back on the screen. What is going on? Where did you go?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, hold on.
You're still here.
You're still seeing me?
Yep, I sure
Okay,
am.
cool. If you can see me, I'll figure this out.
Yep, as long as we stay hooked up, we're good.
Cool. So I went to the Capitol Center in Washington, D.C., 1974. And the Beach Boys, of all acts, the Beach Boys were an opening act, if you can believe that, for Chicago, I was dumbfounded by it. It's like I went to see the Beach Boys, and I think everyone there went to see the Beach Boys because the entire Capitol Center stood up for the opening act, and then Chicago came on, and everybody sat down. It was crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's it's happened over and over for me too. I'll see these bands, with these smaller opening acts. Bon Jovi for one. I saw the Scorpions and Bon Jovi opened up. They were just some kids with a one song, and now they're playing football stadiums to 80,000 people every time they play. So it happens for sure, over and over.
I'm having trouble getting you back on my screen. Pardon me.
Oh yeah, sure.
I relaunched Zoom. I'm telling it to allow me into the meeting. You can see me though, right?
Yep, I sure can.
All right. I'm just gonna keep talking then.
Okay.
Apologize.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem at all. um I listen to High Plains Drifters, and I have trouble kind of saying, describing it, putting it in a box. We all love to do that. What genre it is. I come up with Americana.
Yeah,
Um,
Americana is the label that the terrestrial radio business slapped on us on
okay.
that debut album, probably because the maybe close to a majority of the songs leaned in that direction.
Hmm.
I don't think it's not an accurate description clearly of every song on the record. There's some straight up rock ballads. There's a great pop punk Ramones type song. One of the reviewers called us genre bending. I like that better than Americana, but
Yeah, it definitely is. Because, like you say, I mean, there's many different influences. Are they your influences? A lot of that, is that what you?
on some songs, absolutely. I mean, on some songs, I know where I want the song to go. On the debut album, the pop punk tune, which is called First Amendment Blues, when I first sang it for our producer, I sang him the song. It was Charles Zarnecki was producing that song. John Makem, one of our guitarists, was there, and myself. And I looked at them and I said, all right, in both substance, tone, and music, this is basically a Ramones song, and that's the way it's got to be produced. And John came back with the guitar parts that took it in that direction, and it was perfect from the first demo. Other songs, like on Santa Bring My Girlfriend Back, I knew what I didn't want it to be. I knew that I did not want it leaning Americana. I didn't want any of the sort of Eagles or other soft rock influences of my youth in the 70s on it. And I wrote to the band, I said, as you're figuring out your parts on this song, stay away from anything that leans Americana. Think more big band, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin style. And I said, and we'll probably put some horns on it. And I heard some basic horn lines. The horn parts on the first verse are based on horn parts that I heard in my head, and my producer Greg Cohen programmed into the demo of the song. And then the horn section, who just killed what they did on this song. They did amazing work.
Oh yeah.
They pretty much played what I heard on the first verse, and we told them, once you're through the first verse, if you like those parts, keep them. If you don't, do something else. But once you're past the first verse, do whatever you think makes sense. And their contributions to the song blew us away.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I was thinking to myself that this feels like the most adventurous song that you guys have done. From the first album has a lot of, like we were saying, a lot of different styles and things like that. This song has so many. Like I think there's the marimba in there, horns, maybe even a keyboard.
You'll hear keyboards. That's Charles Zarnecki, who produced the first half of our first record and then got married, and his wife's doing a PhD in Germany. So he hasn't been physically here with us since about halfway through album one, but he contributed absolutely brilliant keyboard parts to the song from Germany.
Yeah. And it's really, there's a lot of sound, a lot of enriched.
There are a lot of things going on. The truly cool and miraculous thing was that when the band showed up in the studio, it was, I think, Saturday, August 8th, everybody got into their ISO booth. The drummer was out in the main room, obviously. And from the very first take of that song, and I think we only did somewhere between 5 and 7 takes in less than an hour. But from the first moment they played, it just sounded phenomenal. Obviously, there were no horns on it other than the programmed ones on verse 1. But when we walked out of the studio with a rough mix that day, everybody felt we had done something really special. And at least from the way radio and the press are reacting, that seems to be the view.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. I listened to the first album and it's, it's steady. It's it's a lot, very musical, very melodic, but I listened to this and there's just that with the horns really do it.
The horns really do it. And this song, and it's funny, this song, and we recorded one other that day. It's called Since You've Been Gone. There'll actually be 2 versions of that when we put the album out, but we ran that by a couple of the guys we work with on the marketing and PR side of things, and they came back and said, so far these first 2 songs you're doing on the second album are a big step up from album 1. I think so. I mean, part of it is probably that the band gelled during the second half of doing that first album. They really came together, and we found out towards the end of that record that if we put everybody in this old school, we put everybody in the studio at the same time and record everything together. That's how we got the best results.
Man, that's, and I love that. There's such a difference. We don't get a lot of that now. All the band in one room, that live sound. It's very hard to achieve when you're sharing files across, nations. A lot of times.
Yeah, but it's so cool that you can do that. Charles was able to send us his keyboard parts from Germany. Michael Cordone or Cordoni, I'm not sure how he pronounces it, and his partner Jesse, they call themselves the 305 Horns. They're out in Los Angeles. They were able to do the horn parts in their own studio in LA and send them back to us. I mean, in theory, you could collaborate with people all over the world. And I know people are doing that. I watched, what was it? I watched Crowded House come together a couple of months ago, and they did a live simulcast, all the guys in their different places in Australia or New Zealand or wherever they were. And they were doing a live version of, what was the big single that they had?
Yeah, I forget what it's called.
There is freedom within, there is freedom within.
Yeah.
And it was so cool to see them all over the place, but all playing together and doing that fabulous song.
Yeah, and that's really great. And I think that's the silver lining we get with COVID is,
it's tough to find a silver lining with COVID, but
it is. But
I mean, my wife says that the big winner from COVID in our house has been the new puppy that we got, because she showed up a few months before the lockdown, and since then she's probably been the most, you know, loved and adored dog, at least that we know in our little part of the world. You know, I'm not traipsing off to my office in New York, disappearing sometimes for days on end.
Right.
You know, no business trips. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see that that you and your family can still cohabitate and get along.
Yeah.
You know?
How about that? I
Yeah,
don't know how long, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, some people, I think it's worn thin on some, but we're still doing fine.
I was
So,
gonna say my wife's been home for quite a while. She's on the other side of the wall here. She's
yep.
doing her HR thing. She's usually in downtown Chicago. She's been at home for, you know, since April, really. And you know, we still love each other. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been cool to see people reconnect. Although I miss seeing my extended family who are spread all over the country. That's been a bummer.
Yeah, well, you know, we just had Thanksgiving, and we usually get a big family get together. It was just the four of us, and you know, we really enjoyed the day. It was different. It wasn't exactly, you know, how we view Thanksgiving, but it was nice. We did everything. We cooked way more than we'll ever eat, um, but we had Thanksgiving together, and as an immediate family, and it was different, but it was beautiful. It was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You uh, especially the song "Santa Bring My Girlfriend Back" has a little bit of a naughty party side. Um, a lot of High Plains Drifter songs have that. Is that a natural direction for you, or is that, do you consciously say to yourself, you know, I kind of want to keep it rock and roll and, you know, get it a little, you know, join the party kind of thing?
Um, it's it varies from song to song. Um, you know, there are songs on that first album that are just straight ballads, like "Marry Me Again," which I wrote for my wife, in part as an apology for having written a song about Jennifer Aniston. I figured I'd better cover my ass and do something for my wife. Um, so I mean, if you listen to that, there's you know, that's a straight up, you know, love song. But a song like First Amendment Blues, or one of my favorites, just because I love the way the song turned out, is "I Never Loved Her," which is absolutely was deliberately written, you know, from a tongue-in-cheek perspective. It's, you know, this guy who's, maybe he's married, maybe he's not, but he clearly has a significant other, and he's clearly been caught, you know, sneaking around on the side, and he's trying to talk his way out of it, always coming back to his refrain in the chorus to the woman he's singing to, saying, "I never loved her, I never loved her," you know.
Right. Yeah.
So
Speaking of Jennifer Aniston, you know, I see the video and everything, and it's great. It's slightly creepy, but it's great. Um, has she ever seen it? Have you ever heard from her?
we have no way of knowing.
Okay,
um
she hasn't contacted you and said,
you know, no.
"That's good."
Probably good, probably good.
Yes. Well, I'm
There we
thinking, you
are, I'm
know,
back. I can see you again. Sorry about
okay, cool. I guess that's cool. I don't know.
that. I guess it's cool. Now we're, you know, you kind of, part of you hopes that she'll see it, she'll like it, she'll realize that I'm a huge fan of hers. I always, people say to me, "Why did you write a song about Jennifer Aniston?" And in part, it's hard to explain why, but I think she's a great comedic actress. I compare her to, in the old days, I say she's the Barbara Stanwyck of this age.
Okay.
She has unbelievable comic timing. There aren't a lot of actresses doing comedy who I think can do what she does. You know, she's hot and, you know, funny, and, you know, seems like she doesn't seem like she'd be an asshole in real life. You know,
Right, right. That's always a good thing.
always a good thing with people out on the left coast. Yeah.
Now you mentioned that you were a music industry attorney
Yeah.
early on. What did you take from that experience? Now, you know, you're on both sides of the coin. Is
Yeah.
there
It's
something?
funny. The music industry, I came from the world of the huge New York uh, law firms. You know, the biggest. I worked for one of the biggest firms in the world. Still is. That's where I was trained. you come from a world where your clients are fairly evenly matched, like 500-pound gorilla against 500-pound gorilla, Fortune 500 against Fortune 500,
Right.
and negotiations proceed on a more or less level playing field. Then you come into the music industry and you learn that there's only money and power, really. You know, the labels and the publishers are the only banks for the most part. There aren't really alternative sources of capital. And my old boss, he taught me a lot of things that I carry with me to this day. You know, what is the golden rule in the entertainment industry?
Yeah,
Do you know?
to keep your publishing rights.
No, no. Good
That's for
point. I've
sure.
done that. I've held on to publishing. No, but he who has the gold rules. So, you know, you're always in. We represented some huge labels and some huge artists. I spent about the same 3 or 4 year period simultaneously doing a lot of work for LL Cool J, and the firm and I were doing corporate work for Suge Knight and Death Row Records. And both those guys had power. They had a lot of power because they could sell records.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to negotiate from a level playing field. But, you know, with a new artist, one of my law partners said this to me. He said, you might as well just take the first contract that the label gives you, don't negotiate a single thing, and then throw it in a drawer and wait and see if the record sells. He goes, now you can't do that because you might be accused of malpractice, right? You're supposed to negotiate. Goes, but you might as well, because if the band doesn't sell any records, the contract doesn't matter. And if the band sells a shitload of records, the contract doesn't matter. You're going to renegotiate it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and that reminds me of Taylor Swift's whole thing going on. It's kind of that whole thing. You know, I think she signed away.
She's a very smart businesswoman. I've enjoyed watching her grow.
Mm-hmm.
I've liked her music since I saw her perform Mean, either on I think it was at the Grammys. She did a live performance of Mean, and I just sat back and went, wow, that is, for a young girl, that's an incredible song. I went out and got whatever record that was on. I've been a fan of her since. My daughter grew up a big fan of Taylor Swift, and it's been cool to watch her become an astute businesswoman.
It has, yeah, and she started so young. You know, and a lot of times, you know, they get taken advantage of, and you know, I think that's probably what happened here. It's what it sounds like. She signed her life away, and you know, now is trying to recoup. It's interesting to watch because she's no dummy, that's for sure.
No, she's no dummy.
No. I wanted to ask you about the last Christmas song that you had on the first album.
Get Me Home by Christmas Eve.
Yeah, and that had I know you mentioned a virus in the new one. So it's socially conscious in that respect. I would imagine that was intentional.
Well, yeah, I rewrote that line. Again, most of the song was written starting day after Christmas 2018. Most of it was written within the next couple of weeks. Lyrics, melody, everything.
Okay.
I wrote the virus line probably in June when we started demoing the song. It shows up in the second chorus, and I changed those lyrics so that it would speak to this year's problem. And Get Me Home by Christmas Eve was speaking to something else that was going on back in the day.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that. And, you know, it's very socially conscious, both of those songs. Do you plan on doing a Christmas song for each time you put out an album?
This was I view this as a fortuitous accident that each of our two albums began with a Christmas song. When we did album one, I went to Charles Zarnecki and John Makem, sat down over dinner with them and said, I've got to get this song out of my head. This is a good time to do it because President Obama's talking about finally bringing our troops home from the Middle East, and the song lyrically, I made sure the song lyrically alludes to, you know, things like that. And I told my wife that, you know, I said, indulge me on this, please, darling. You know, I promise not to blow a lot of money, and I won't keep recording unless this song gets on the radio. Well, you know, the song got on the radio, and I looked at her and I basically said, you're screwed. Now we're going to make an album. So So it was a complete accident that this song began. I never thought I'd write another Christmas song, but this one just happened. I doubt that album 3, when we get to it, will start with a Christmas song. That'd almost be too weird. You know?
It's pretty cool, you know. Everybody, you know, I mean,
there will be one other sort of socially conscious song on album 2, which is in demo form now. It's called Nuclear Winter, and it kind of speaks to the coming of Armageddon in New York City.
wow, that's massive.
I hope it will be. We'll see.
Yeah, very cool. Do you have a release?
No release date. We're still an unsigned indie act. We're for most part self-promoted. We lucked out, thank God, on the Christmas song through one of my former law partners. Got the song unbeknownst to me to people at Universal Music Distribution, and they picked it up on a P&D deal, pressing and distribution.
Mm-hmm.
They're helping us push it out. There's no promise that they'll be involved in album 2. I don't anticipate it. And, you know, most people don't sign guys my age, and I've known that. I didn't do this to get signed. I did this to just get the music out. As long as radio keeps playing it and people are hearing it, I guess we'll keep making records. We'll be, if we're lucky, the soonest could be late first quarter 2021, but I'm thinking more like second quarter. We've got 3 songs in the can, 3 or 4 more really far along in the demo stage, and the balance of the album is mapped out. The songs are chosen, and they're in very early stages. But again, we're coming into the holidays.
Right.
I've got a band full of married guys with kids, and it's tough to find the time to get everyone into the studio. But I'm pushing for, if we can get one long weekend in December, I think we'll largely get up to about 6 or 7 songs in the can and then mixing.
Yeah, awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, most of the guys I talk to are just musicians. They play their instruments, they sing, they do whatever they do, and they don't have a plan B. You know, it's like, I don't know what I'll do if this music thing doesn't work out.
Well, I'm always kind of embarrassed to say that music was like my plan F or something. I didn't believe in my own songwriting abilities as a teenager. I mean, I'd have songs rattling around in my head, and I'd listen to what happened to radio in the last half of the 70s. And let's go back to Chicago, for instance. You could take Chicago, John Denver, and disco, and blame those 3 influences for the death of rock radio in the 70s, for the most part, right? Until the punk and new wave movements came along.
Right.
And I'll never forget, to me, still one of the greatest albums of all time is the Stones' Some Girls, when that came out. Yeah. I was in college, and when we went back to school, I think it was the beginning of my senior year, you couldn't walk anywhere on campus without that record blaring out of everybody's windows. It almost announced that rock is back. You know, It was 1978. Rock was back. We could bury disco. I didn't want to bury Chicago or John Denver so much. They did a lot of good stuff, but they ruined rock radio.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool to watch somebody like yourself. You know, you're honing your craft as an attorney and everything, and you're now pursuing.
Yeah, but I was afraid. I was afraid to do it when I was young. You know, I didn't have the balls to do it. I didn't want to starve. I didn't want to be. Right. I didn't want to be a struggling, broke musician waiting tables in New York City. Yeah. I was lucky. You know, it's like I always tested well. I was a nerdy kid. I was fine being nerdy and unpopular, and I was able to go to really good schools. So I figured, you know, I'm going to do this and provide for my family first. And if I can find a way to figure out how to make music later, I'll do it later. I did take one shot at this in my 30s, and it didn't pay off. You know, I took, excuse my puppy is. My puppy's barking because my wife just came home. I tried this once in my 30s, lost a decent chunk of change. I was unmarried at the time. It didn't matter that I lost the money, but it wasn't an experience I could repeat once I was supporting a family.
Right,
so.
Right. And it's great that you get this shot. You know, from the outside looking in, it looks like you played your hand absolutely perfectly.
Well, in a way, I always think that I mean, you're being very kind, but I always think that if I had done music in the 80s, let's say, I mean, I had a hard time wearing a suit and getting out of the 80s alive in a way. I mean, I was single in Manhattan, pre-AIDS, pre-social media, New York City. You know, I was working insane hours at the law firm I was at.
Hmm.
But if I could get out of work by midnight, the clubs were open till 4. And my friends and I were typically there between midnight and 4. You could sleep 4 or 5 hours, go back to the office. You know, if I'd been doing, I don't know that I'd have gotten out of that if I had been a musician. You know,
Right, right, and a lot don't. Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, you did your thing. You supported a family. You got honing your craft, like I said, and now you get to do the other half. You know,
yeah. This is I mean,
your passion.
it's the coolest thing to work with the guys I work with and the girls, and see what they bring to each song.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, what I'm doing now, dealing with the promotion and all that, is I enjoy this, but it's not as fun as being in the studio and watch it all come together. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah, yeah, it's got to be great. It's got to be great. I won't keep you too long. I got one more thing for you. Your ideal Christmas. You know, you're right. I hear these Christmas songs, and it brings me joy. You know, they have sense of humor. They're really fun. Uh, your ideal Christmas. What is that? What does it smell like? What's the weather? Uh, you know, who's there? Um,
my
where?
ideal Christmas. It's funny. My wife and daughter insisted that over Thanksgiving weekend we start watching at least some of the classic Christmas films that are on our family list of things we watch every year. And given that I now live in the pretty far out suburbs of Connecticut, the far out from New York suburbs of Connecticut, we watched Barbara Stanwyck in Christmas in Connecticut
Yeah,
with Sidney Greenstreet and
beautiful.
others.
Yeah.
And so I'm in Connecticut. We'll have this will be our third Christmas in Connecticut. I'd love it to be a white Christmas. I have a power generator this year. The thing I don't look forward to is Christmas with no power. That hasn't happened yet, but we started Thanksgiving morning with a blackout. I've had a blackout
Wow.
out here on Easter morning, and after that big hurricane swept through the Northeast back in August, our part of the state was without power for 6 days. So now I have a generator. I'm ready. If COVID weren't an issue, I'd love to have as much of the two families here as possible and just, cocoon with the family, have a big dinner, avoid any blowups like 2 years ago. Although, another
You
blowup
might.
might trigger another Christmas
I
song.
was
Who the
gonna
hell knows?
say you
You
might
know?
get another song out of
Yeah, could be.
that.
You never know where they're going to come from. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, I hope you have a great holiday, and make it what you want it, for sure. This has really been a great honor for me. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time.
But I'm really grateful for the time and attention. Again, especially at my age, it's odd that anybody pays attention to us. Um, Although on this song, I said when I came home from the studio that day, I said the guys hit it out of the park. I mean, just everything they did was perfect, and I couldn't be happier than to have opportunities to talk to guys like you who are going to play our song and
Yeah.
help get it out there. I'm really grateful to you.
Oh, hey, it brings me joy, like I said, and
Well, music brings me joy too. And this has been such a crappy year.
yeah,
And the
wow,
most rewarding thing as this song rolls out has been to see people writing back to me, whether they're texting me after they've heard it. The video just went out yesterday. I hope you get a chance to see it.
yeah,
It's up on YouTube. Jody will get you a link, I'm sure.
yep,
But people writing back or posting and describing the song as hysterical and funny and just what we need in this year of the pandemic. And that makes it all worthwhile, really.
yeah, yeah, and that's just it. You know, like I said, it made me smile, and it put all kinds of great feeling into me, and we appreciate you for it for
Well,
sure.
that's high praise, and I'm grateful to you. Thank you.
Very awesome. And like I said, have a great holiday. Hope
You
your
too.
family
You have a
stays
Merry
safe.
Christmas, and If you don't mind, I'm gonna ask Jody to make sure we can stay in touch after this, trade emails and
Absolutely.
stuff. So
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely. Yeah.
That'd be great.
I look forward.
And anybody who had to sit through Bob Seger as an opening act is a guy I'd like to stay in touch with.
Very cool. Yeah, let's do that. And
Yeah.
yeah, future promotions. And when you come to
Well,
town,
I mean, we've got, we'll have an album coming out, but it's like you're a guy who is promoting music discovery. I loved reading on your site that, because I have a ton of friends whose record collections died the day they got out of college,
yeah,
and
so
they
do
need
I.
to they need to find guys like you to tell them what the hell's going on and what's coming out. And
I,
you're doing you're doing a great service for people.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, and I try so hard. Like I said, I got two older brothers, and they're still listening to Supertramp, which is
So,
great.
which is fine.
But
It's fine.
there's so much here that
Yeah.
you could just enrich
Yeah,
your life with.
I have friends who say to me, one of my law school buddies posted something on Facebook a while back. He was bemoaning the deterioration of popular music since the classic rock of the 60s and 70s. And I posted back to him. I said, dude, go listen to Post Malone's Circles. I mean, it is an awesome song by a kid who, up until the day I heard it, I was dismissing it as some, wannabe white rapper, and then he put that on. I was like, this is the real deal. This is an awesome, pop song. And it's now, and it's as good as anything from 40 or 50 years ago. And I'm so happy I have a 13-year-old daughter who makes me listen to Top 40 radio all the time.
It's like very cool.
So much great stuff out there. I wish people our age would discover it, and I hope guys like you can help make that happen.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Yeah, definitely. Hey, let's keep in touch, and I hope this thing clears up, and
it'll clear up. We'll be a year from now. You and I'll be sitting down knocking back a steak in New York City. Mark my words.
Man, that would be so cool. That would be so cool.
Larry,
I look forward
to Christmas. Okay.
All right, you too. Take care, bud.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.